Welcome to Behind Every Employer, where leaders in business and education from across the country share solutions for sourcing, training, and growing frontline talent to create the workforce of tomorrow. This broadcast is brought to you by the Coalition on Adult Basic Education. To learn more, check us out at www.coabe.org or any of your favorite podcast sites. Now, here are your hosts, Anson Green and Jeffrey Abramowitz. Hello there, Anson. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. How's your summer?
My summer is going well. We're super hyper busy and so much happening in our country right now. It's incredible. We talk about workforce development and education. It's all like just a moving target, and we're busy, so it's really good. How about you? You getting any time off at least?
Not yet, man. I'm looking forward to some though. But it's always just some awesome project working out there. A good guest, and we have a fantastic one today. And I love this guest because she's going to bring in a discussion that we don't have as much, which is reaching down into secondary students, high schoolers and stuff. You know, and her organization SkillsUSA has this broad reach, but that's an audience that we haven't got to. Because that's an audience that employers are looking to for that future workforce. So I'm thrilled to have our guest on. And if you want to bring her on, let's just get this show on the road because there's so much to talk about today.
I do have to say that this is a little bit weird for me because, you know, when you're a fan of an organization for a long time, it's like seeing a rock star out in public. And, but I'm really excited about SkillsUSA and the great work they do. Let's bring Chelle on. How you doing?
Hi, gentlemen. I'm doing just fine. How are you?
It's great to see you.
Chelle, we're thrilled to have you today. And I tell you, I was prepping today, and I first want to tell everybody SkillsUSA.org is a fantastic website. You have got so many great resources on there. So the listeners, I usually pitch the websites at the end, but I had to get out there on this one because it was just so great. And you have done so much as the executive director of SkillsUSA. I'm just so impressed by your record-setting growth that you've had in the organization since 2019, I think, and the partner development. So tell us a little bit about SkillsUSA, what you do out there for the thousands of students across the U.S., and a little bit about like how did you just get this thing cranking so much in terms of membership and partner development?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. As you mentioned, I'm Chelle Travis. I'm the executive director for SkillsUSA, and we are the #1 workforce development organization for students. And I tell you, we're talking about the things that have happened since I've been executive director, but you don't do that without a great team. So I have to give a shout out to my SkillsUSA team that has just done phenomenal work over the past year and the years leading up to it, and the tremendous history that we have. SkillsUSA, we are celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. And so we have a legacy of workforce development and of leaders prior to me that have really been focused and passionate on our skilled professionals and building those career-ready leaders and responsible community members. As you mentioned, this year, we did celebrate a record-setting year of 444,000 student and instructor members nationwide. So really talk about impact and life change. And these students are in career and technical education programs in middle schools, high schools, and you mentioned high school, and college post-secondary institutions nationwide. We serve over 140 different occupational areas, everything from 3D animation and design to welding and literally everything in between. And really, we are that conduit. You mentioned business and industry. We are that conduit between education and industry, really helping to bridge that gap. between the two. And we've really leaned in over the last year as we're looking at our drive to 65. While we are celebrating 60 this year, we're not going to sit on those laurels. We are really planning for the future of our organization. We're not going to be satisfied until every career and technical education student in the nation has the opportunity to experience the life-changing opportunities that we offer through SkillsUSA. And really, as we bridge that gap between education and industry, we do that in a number of ways, through the development of technical, workplace, and personal skills, what we call our SkillsUSA framework of personal, workplace, and technical skills that are grounded in academics. And that is really the blueprint of everything that we do. Gentlemen, that is in all of our programming, those skills that we teach through the SkillsUSA framework that are embedded into all of our programs. Those skills are the skills that employer partners tell us that they need, but most entry-level employees are lacking today. Those skills, not just their technical skills, but those skills like their teamwork, their communication skills, those leadership skills that they need in their employees today. So really, that is what we call that SkillsUSA framework, is what makes the SkillsUSA difference and what our employer partners say that they need. So we're really in this strategic plan, really looking to engage more students meaningfully, but also our partners with more opportunities for certification opportunities, more work-based learning opportunities, and probably the best known way that we are conduits between education and industry just took place, right, is through our SkillsUSA championships and our National Leadership and Skills Conference, which is the largest display of skilled talent in the world of its kind. We just hosted over 20,000 at our National Leadership and Skills Conference. Of that, about 6,800 were competitors in 114 different skill and leadership competitions, really representing that SkillsUSA framework there. And those employer partners, where that connection is so important, is they really do not only design our technical standards, which are the gold standard. Those technical standards are the gold standard for our championships, but those are the standards that say what an employer needs in an entry-level employee. And that really does guide those championships. So the championships aren't just competitions. They're workforce development tools. And we can talk a little bit more about how that happens. But those employer partners actually not only design those technical standards, which then that guides learning in the classroom, right? So our employer partners are getting the students and the actual employees that they need, because those standards are in the classroom. But then that they also design and judge and implement and execute those competitions. So it takes about 2,000 business and industry volunteers during our championships to actually execute. We could not do that work without the help of our partner.
You're hitting us with these big numbers: 60 years, 20,000 attendees, 6,000 contestants. You know, I mean, like, these are big numbers, and this is very impressive with what you're doing. I remember years ago when I was at Alamo Colleges, I ran a workforce campus. And the one thing I remember is that SkillsUSA provided, I mean, we had all kinds of students, you know, credit-bearing students, students that were kind of trying to find their way in life, some that were going to university. And then, you know, that group of students that were dead set in the skill trades. And at the time, I remember the jealousy other students had, because there was so much structure for those students all the way up into these competitions and all of this. And the academic students kind of just had your typical academic track, which is, you know, just not, it's not to say it's not structured, but it's not structured in terms of vertically integrated with all kinds of other services, and including the employers coming and doing demos and things like that on site. So it had that local, it's a national organization, massive organization, but then there's this completely robust local presence that makes this so critically important. And I just remembered that as being such a high quality aspect of things. So congratulations on what you guys are doing. And let's lift this up a little bit, because you're seeing you see and hear a lot from these partners. And I want to ask you, like, how can we as a workforce system in the U.S. bridge this growing skills gap and strengthen the connection between education and industry? Because it's always been this tension of like building the skills that the industry needs, and industry says the students that are exiting out of college or high school don't have the skills they need. What role does SkillsUSA bring in terms of value when it comes to like connecting those two partners, education and industry?
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned it very well about all of the activity that happens. Not the national numbers are really big, right?
Yeah.
But the magic truly does happen at that state and local level, all the way up, because our mission is really to engage all 444,000 members that we have, not just those that we see at the National Leadership and Skills Conference. And to do that, it takes education and industry. It takes all of us, right? Workforce development is not just SkillsUSA's job. It is not just the community and technical college system or K-12. It is also government. So education, industry, and government all working together to ensure that we have a skilled workforce. And that is really what we are here to do, is to be a convener. It wasn't last week. It seems like it was last week, but week before last, when I was at NLSC, we held a workforce development summit. And in that, we brought together partners from education, industry, and government and policymakers to have discussions on the challenges that you are talking about right now. And time again, as we were surveying the crowd and getting their input, the thing that was consistent was the need for more communication and being at the same table together, of education and industry. And that was really the number one result that we saw, and the number one need was for education and industry actually to come to the table together. And that is what we are here to do. Not only do we do that through NLSC, is to be a convener of education, industry, and government, all at the table to make sure that our nation has a skilled workforce, but it's to do that year round, and actually to help our chapters at the local, state, and then at the national level as well. And there are so many opportunities for business and industry leaders and for us to provide those. One of those we talked about was work-based learning programs. And I think that is so important, and important for our employer partners to become a part of, and making those connections to our local chapters and to the classrooms with our national partners that have local presence, and making sure that they are part of technical committees and advisory committees at the local level for CTE and for SkillsUSA. But also making sure that they're taking part in those work-based learning programs, because something that is so important is at an early age to help those younger students develop an occupational identity. Many times when you think of work-based learning, we think of the pinnacle of that. We think of apprenticeship, internship, externship, those opportunities, youth apprenticeships, and those are so valuable. And yes, that is part of the SkillsUSA work-based learning continuum. But we really do need to start at an earlier age, and looking at middle school, where there's an opportunity to try occupations on and to create career awareness. Because we know that through our research that by the time a student exits middle school, they may not have decided what they want to be yet, but they've already ruled out many of those careers that we serve. And what I used to find out when I was in post-secondary education is because students didn't know and didn't have the awareness of all the occupations that were available for them. I saw them as adult learners coming back many times after they'd already made a decision, a career decision, potentially that was not the right fit for them. So let's really start at help those adults that are coming back through SkillsUSA, but also let's start at an earlier age.
I love that you
as
say
well.
that. Yeah, I love that you say
Yeah.
that as well. I don't think we do enough on educating young people about all the career opportunities out there. I was with someone recently who was ultra successful, and he said he remembers his first job that he had. It was an internship, and he was just out of high school, and he went in to see his boss, and he got done the internship. He said, what's my next job? Like, where should I be going? And the boss said, you're just asking the wrong question. You should be asking the question of, what are you really good at? Like, what are the skills that you have that you can take and use into other fields? And I think that we don't do enough when we work with young people and get them to explore some of the career opportunities that they have. And I'm curious, what does SkillsUSA do to try and get people to explore and to recognize what they do best, the skills that they have within themselves?
Absolutely. So that comes through our work-based learning programs and our occupational identity, where we help students, our programming, where we help students really discover their occupational identity, really starting at an early age. And so the way we connect employers to the classroom is things like mentoring programs, through career awareness programs. Maybe that's serving on a panel and speaking to groups of middle schoolers or high schoolers as well. That could be going into the classrooms or taking students to your place of work, but really making those connections and actually helping students learn about careers and then themselves along the way. We were part of a study or supported a study by Youth Science, and it really did show where interest and aptitude were not necessarily aligned with our career interest and aptitude, which is really interesting to see. So really helping students discover not only what they are good at, but what they might be passionate about along the way. And really our employer partners and engaging through these what we call our work-based learning continuum, that starts at the early age and then goes through the middle school and then goes on through college, post-secondary, and apprenticeship opportunities as well, is to take the opportunity to volunteer for those, whether it's serving on a panel, whether it is being a mentor, if it's volunteering to be on a technical or an advisory committee to judge at the local level. It doesn't have to be at the national level, but to serve as a judge, to give that input, to help us design those technical standards, or even ensure that programs have the appropriate tools and equipment that they need. And later on, prizes and scholarships for those students as well.
You know, two things I'm hearing that I just love. And this is the value that you guys bring that I see in it, you know, of the many. One, you're getting down to the ages of students where they're also, many of them, doing the unfortunate thing of checking out and dropping out of school. 8th grade, 9th grade. And when you see research on students that are dropping out, a lot of time is because they don't have direction in what they're doing in school and how it connects to life. And that is where I see what you guys doing is like not only bringing direction, but doing the second thing, which stands out to me, which is getting employers in front of students, of children, kids, high schoolers, college students. Many college students never see an employer till they've already graduated with a BA degree. You get to see employers in SkillsUSA programs and skilled trades early on. And that helps you kind of calibrate things like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And like, what do they care about? And you know, then those kids go home and tell mom and dad, oh, I saw this guy or this woman from so-and-so. That's a great company. I want to work there. And kids don't typically say stuff like that, but that's what happens when you're involved in Skills USA and in the skilled trades program. And I just want to compliment you on that. And that just jumps out at me with what you're telling us. There's as such a huge value for these students that sometimes can just be dropping out or stopping out of school.
Absolutely. And what we've seen, so we have a report, if you're interested in it, it's called the Skills USA Advantage Report. And what we see is that Skills USA members have a decided advantage over their peers in 7 key areas. And one of those is completion that you mentioned. And part of that is not only are they able to discover something that they're passionate about and they can see and relate to their future career, but we also create a sense of belonging for those students and celebrate their choice, their first choice of a skilled trade or a skilled profession. And we bring employers that show the importance that they have to our workforce and how important they are to them. And that these aren't just jobs. These are careers, family sustaining careers, lifelong careers that we really should and deserve to be celebrated and valued. So we'd love to share those with your listeners as well.
Sure, absolutely. You've kind of been saying this over and over, but kind of bullet out in your mind, what are the ways that employers can partner with Skills USA? Because I've heard probably 10 from you. Give us 4 or 5 and let it so that someone listening, can say like, okay, I can do that. Let's pursue this. What are the things that you would say on the elevator to an employer about how to get engaged with Skills USA?
So first of all, if you are a local employer, I would say go to skillsusa.org, and on that website, you are going to see our state leaders. And in that, find the state that you are interested in, and then get connected with your state director that will give you opportunities that you can be involved in at the local level automatically. If you're a national employer, absolutely. Come to my team and we will connect you, and we can connect you with those resources to volunteer, to tools and equipment. So there are always needs for volunteers, whether that is on a committee or that's just coming to speak to a classroom. Tools and equipment. There are always needs for tools and equipment for technical programs, and to ensure that students are career ready and that they have the tools that are necessary in their classroom. So those are in kind. Other ways is to donate, is actually cash donations, right? Because it does take funding for students to be able not only to participate
to go to the competitions and stuff,
but also to complete the programming that is available to them. And then I think something that I haven't mentioned that is really top of mind for many of our employers is advocacy. Advocacy for career and technical education. And I don't think that is something that I've mentioned that is part of Skills USA and what we do. But we teach students to be advocates for career and technical education and for the skilled trades. And many of our legislative priorities will mirror what are needed for the workforce development for our employer partners. So to come alongside us in this work at the local, state, and at the national level. So it really does, we have something for anyone at any commitment level. So whether that's cash, time, in kind, or advocacy, we really do have a place for an employer partner and a place for you.
So I love you raise the advocacy issue. It's what COABE does. And as public policy chair for COABE, and also somebody has been active with Octay over the years, and a subject matter expert for Octay. It's a passion of mine, but you raised the issue, you opened the door. So
I did.
Here we go. Right now there's a lot going on nationally, and I'm just curious, Skills USA, where are the legislative priorities for them? Where should we be focusing when we talk about skills and getting people back to work?
So really and truly, when we look at career and technical education and we look at our advocacy efforts, we have key legislative priorities that we have laid out, and you can find out more about our 5 key legislative priorities within our SkillsUSA website. You were talking about the great the great assets there. We actually launched these on publicly on our 60th anniversary. So this is the first set of public legislative priorities that our organization has ever had, because we do think it is such an important time for our students to be able to understand, our educators, and for our policy leaders to understand what the needs are there to building our future workforce. And so the first thing is to invest in CTE infrastructure. So that is our first legislative priority. The second is to protect and support the role of CTE in public education, and to continue to do that. The third is actually to improve post-secondary CTE access. And in that, what we were talking about there was actually short-term Pell. So while we know that that is moving forward, right, and we are now turning to watching that and the implementation and our recommendations for implementation there as well. The fourth is to strengthen the connection to workforce development systems. So really looking at Perkins and WIOA and how those, the National Apprenticeship Act, and how those are interconnected and how they can seamlessly work together. So really encouraging really a thoughtful look at the talent, the complete talent pipeline, because K-12 is workforce.
Absolutely. Two things. I want to do some definitions for our audience here. CTE, career. No. Our employers sometimes wonder about these terms. You know, we love them, but sometimes they don't know them. They have their own terms, of course. CTE, career and technical education. But here's what I want you to define. Tell us a little bit more about short-term Pell, because short-term Pell is something that I think employers should really be getting behind in terms of advocacy. But what is short-term Pell?
So short-term Pell, my son is 12, and I have been working on short-term Pell since he was 1. So I am thrilled with the fact that I am going to be moving toward implementation, right? Moving those efforts toward implementation. So really what we're looking for and what we're looking is expanding federal Pell Grant program eligibility to really high quality, shorter term career and technical education. Yes. Thank you for that reminder. Programs that are really aligned with what workforce needs are. So what post-secondary and employment opportunities are for students, because we have this gap between the time period and the time frame that is required for Pell funding and what many of really the short-term needs in the workforce are. For example, when I was with the Tennessee Board of Regents and the Tennessee College of Applied Technology system, one of the programs that was ineligible for a time period, well, still is, was our truck driving programs. Yes. Because they did not meet the number of hours that were required. Well, we know that we have a shortage of about 100,000 truck drivers a year. Yes. So over the next year, we're going to need 1 million truck drivers. And those programs are not inexpensive for students, and especially if we're looking at co-aids, those people that are trying to retrain. To enter into a new occupation, and they have other expenses, and we need these people to literally keep our nation moving, right? Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important, and it has been a gap, these credentials of value that employer partners say that they need. They don't need potentially, and many times when I was in the post-secondary training effort, they would actually hire my students well before their graduation date, right? Because they needed them with just a specific shorter term skill set. And so this really does open up those opportunities for some of those shorter term programs to really meet the workforce demands of today. And it doesn't take away from those other programs that are necessarily needed.
I think there's just a realization in our country that you don't need to go to college to be successful. There's a lot of careers out there that short-term credentials, that stackable credentials that can lead to a really significant career that is sustainable, can provide for a family, and can really, march you up the ladder.
Yep.
And what I would like for us to do in our advocacy efforts, and I have one more that I didn't mention, but we went to that one that I have been very passionate about for a very long time in our organization, because there is a need in our workforce today. But is that we want to normalize career and technical education and post-secondary, whether going into a skilled trade, right? Whether that is through an apprenticeship program, whether that is through a short-term technical college certificate program or community college program. It is not to take away from other opportunities that students have in post-secondary training, but it is to elevate and celebrate the opportunities just as much and really normalize that opportunity of students that want to enter in skilled trades that don't necessarily require a 4-year degree, or they offer the stackable opportunities along the way for the career field. And it may be that the student goes back at a later time for a 4-year. So our fifth, and to go back to that for just one moment, I think it's so important, because it's so important to our employer partners, because it's important to being able to educate our next skilled workforce, is actually to grow the talent pipeline of career and technical education instructors. So many of our career and technical education instructors come to teaching not as their first career choice. They actually come to us from industry. So they are not trained in, they don't have a background in curriculum and instruction and curriculum design and classroom management. And so coming into the classroom, they have the great technical skills. So how we need to ensure that those instructors are prepared for that, but also that it is an attractive opportunity for those instructors. We need instructors to be coming from industry to get our workforce prepared, right? We need them to come from welding, but we need to make the occupation of our career and technical education instructor a viable opportunity for them as well, because many times they are leaving a very high paying career opportunity to come to the classroom, and we know that they're prepared and ready, and that it is also an attractive opportunity for them. So we offer a wage that is comparable. So that is my fifth.
That's such a powerful one, because back to my days in the college, and I'm also thinking of small communities. So in the college, there isn't a professional development organization at the college itself focused on the trades faculty members. A lot of times it's the credit faculty members and the professional development. Same for small rural areas. Those high school training options for those faculty members coming out of industry, as you said, or retired and looking for that second career out of industry. SkillsUSA, because it's so broad and expansive across the USA, provides a network for those smaller communities also that is the same high quality that you're going to get in downtown Dallas, and so I love that aspect of it too, because you don't have that scalability in those smaller community colleges, smaller high schools, for professional development for faculty members in trades. I mean, it's just a rare thing, but SkillsUSA fills that vacuum, and it's just a wonderful asset you bring to the states and to the communities.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And thank you. So, and that is one thing that I think is so great about Skills USA is it does bring that sense of belonging, not only for our students, but for our instructors. So if you're that one welding teacher in your school district, then you know that there are thousands of welding instructors across the U.S. In Skills USA programs. And I think that was one thing when I was, again, an administrator that I really appreciated was how involvement in professional development is so important for our post-secondary career and technical education instructors. And it's through programs like Skills USA and some of our partners, ATEA, ACTE, that offer professional development and that we give. And that's one thing that I'm so excited about with our Drive to 65 and some things that we're doing is we're offering those opportunities for certification through our programming while they're at national conference as well. So they can come and they have their community, but they can also receive certification and professional development and learn and share with each other. So it also does provide those opportunities as well throughout the year and also through our national conference.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, Jeff, this has just been fantastic. And we got to catch a breath and come back to our lightning round because I want to hear what you're going to charge our audience with when we get back from that lightning round. Jeff, take us out there.
We'll be right back. You know, I'm almost afraid to have the lightning round. We've had so many thunderstorms around the country recently. I'm like, I don't know. We should rename this maybe. Everybody's shuddering. But lightning round, it's we go around real quickly, and we want that bolt of lightning that people could take with them and something that they can do when they leave this podcast to make a difference in the area we're talking about. If it's okay, I'm going to kick us off tonight because for the longest time, I've believed that that education and labor have never really they're like distant cousins, and it's nice to see that they're becoming family now, where education is really finding its place with labor, and we're realizing that if we really want people to have career pathways and substantial jobs in the future, that they need to be smarter, they need to be educated, and it plays a vital role in all of this. So my takeaway from all of this is we need to keep that ball rolling. And we have to remember that if you're in a trade program, that doesn't mean that you should totally not think about going to college at some point or not going back and getting your high school diploma, but there's room for all that. And education's got to be the center of that. And you can grow. The smarter you grow, the more opportunities you're going to have in the workforce and advance through that. So I would say continue the ball rolling with that intersection of education and workforce development.
I love that. I'm gonna jump in here and say something to each of our big audiences. To our employers, go to SkillsUSA.org if you're not involved in Skills USA. And first off, just check the website out and see all the great resources and videos and everything. But find your state and local connections and make a phone call and get involved. Some way, get involved. That's our employer partners. For our high school and community colleges, if you're in the CTE space, you're probably already involved in Skills USA. So all I can say is keep promoting that with your partnerships out there. But if you're at a college or a high school and this is new to you, or maybe you're a high school principal and you don't know exactly what your trades programs are doing in terms of engagement with Skills USA, knock on their door and find out, because we got a school year starting up here, and this is a good time to charge energy into our future workforce in our high schools and community colleges. So get out there and check the website out, because there's not going to be an answer you can't get a question you can't get an answer to on that website. It is such a great resource out there, and I want to congratulate you. So tell us, what is your charge to the audience?
You stole mine, gentlemen. So I would say, and so just thrilled to be here. And thank you so much for introducing Skills USA to your listeners. But I would definitely say, please visit SkillsUSA.org to learn more about how to join, how to donate, or how to volunteer, and join us on our drive to 65 on our way to 1 million members. So the next time I talk to you, we will not just be at 444,000 members, but I hope that we are well on our way to that 1 million engaged members, so that we can truly be the workforce solution that our nation needs. And I really do believe that that is where we are at SkillsUSA, the #1 workforce development organization for students and the solution to the skills gap.
Woo!
Great stuff.
Hey.
Great stuff.
Bring us out, Jeff. That we got to end on that high note, man. That is fantastic. Thank you for being such an informative guest, leading such a massive and impactful organization for our students and our employer partners out there. And I can't wait to see this podcast hit the street, because we're going to be promoting it like mad, and I'm sure you will too.
Well, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for being with us, and everybody, we'll see you on the next episode of Behind Every Employer. You've been listening to Behind Every Employer with Anson Green and Jeffrey Abramowitz. If you like the show, please follow us and tell your friends and colleagues. This broadcast has been brought to you by the Coalition on Adult Basic Education. You can find us at www.coabe.org. You can listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, or on your favorite podcast site. If you'd like to be a guest on Behind Every Employer, please contact us at behindeveryemployer@coabe.org.